Okay. So yeah, good morning, everybody. Thank you for the invitation to talk to you today. I'm really sad I'm not there in person to look into your eyes, but it's been a fantastic meeting. Thank you for organising it so well. So I'm Georgina Fletcher. I'm the project officer at Bioimaging UK, which is a UK community-based network similar to ABIC that is co-funded by UKRI, the UK government research councils, in partnership with the Royal Microscopy Society, or the RMS. And today I'm going to talk to you about credit where it's due and introduce a poster that we've made together with Global Bioimaging around authorship guidelines for co-facilities. And I've put an asterisk there because this applies to anybody who's working with microscopy or facilitating access to imaging technology as well. So yeah, in academia there's a recognition problem. We've put together in this Venn diagram of academic importance and recognition. So we have the people who are vital to research, and then we have the people who are named in publications. And there is an overlap there of the academics, but we're also sort of still referencing the old academic that probably didn't have too much to do with the paper anymore, and leaving out all the other associated roles that in today's modern academic setting are so important, and these include research software engineers, technicians, imaging scientists, data stewards, etc. And this, is essentially a historical problem. Went from one generally male scientist working on his own research to now a very much a team infrastructure, team setting with lots of different people crucial to the research. So this now has the recognition of this problem has now been recognised at the top levels. So Ottoline Leiser, who was the last CEO of UKRI, said we have to move away from the idea of science being carried out by one lone genius. So when we look at what imaging scientists can bring to the party, we have a lot of knowledge and experience, and this is from the recent paper from that was from Global Bioimaging Career Paths Working Group that's in the Journal Microscopy, talking about an imaging scientist career path. And you can see here all the different things that an imaging scientist brings. So can bridge into disciplinary areas, obviously the science, advocacy and outreach, technological innovation, methodological innovation, knowledge transfer, experimental design, and training and education. Why does this matter? Why do we need recognition for co-facilities or for the people facilitating access to imaging? There are more reasons than this, but I thought I'll just put the top three here. Firstly, facility sustainability. Publications, for better or worse, are still the key metric for demonstrating impact, and funders want to see research output from their investments. Acknowledgements or authorships provide trackable evidence of facility contributions. Secondly, this is not in order of priority, the co-facility is driven by its staff. So staff attraction and retention are so important, and if you have clear recognition policies in place, you will be able to attract better staff and keep better staff. And also it's important for the individual. It impacts job evaluation, promotion, funding applications and career prospects. And thirdly, here on this slide, we've got the quality of the science. So if the facility staff are more invested in the project's success, this encourages deeper collaboration, better experimental design, And also users are more likely to consult the core facility in the early stages, in the planning stages, leading to a better research outcome as well. So that's why we think it matters. I just want to do a very quick aside here and plug a global bioimaging authorship and acknowledgement survey, which is still live. And you can see that we've had more than 300 responses, and we'd really like to see more countries in Africa turning blue-green. So there's the QR code. We already start to process the data. You can see what's coming out, but it's still live. So we really encourage you to do this quick survey. So how does it look for acknowledgement? When we ask how frequently are you acknowledged as an imaging scientist, it's not terrible, I would say. It's towards the sometimes and often. So there's room for improvement, definitely. But if we look at frequency of authorship, obviously authorship is much more involved, but then we seem to see a peak around the sort of rarely, and another one sometimes, with less people saying often or always. So there is some gaps there that we think should be looked at. So there's one solution. It's not a fix-all, but it's a help. Is, as I said, this poster, which has guidelines on when to acknowledge and when to provide authorship for facility staff. So as I said, we've partnered with Global Bioimaging, and this is now available freely for download. There are 3 simple principles on the poster with example scenarios, and I'll just go through that in the next slide. But just to say, through Global Bioimaging, we've now got 13 translations available, including French, Portuguese, Arabic. And we are really interested in translating it further. So if you are interested and you have your language is not there, please contact me or Global Bioimaging and we'll get that sorted. So here you can see some of the pictures from around the globe. We've had downloads from all these countries, and I think now we're up to about 370, 400 downloads, which has just been fantastic to see the community, the global community, get behind this. There are 3 simple core principles. Acknowledge any publication resulting from the use of an instrument or support staff from the facility should acknowledge the facility as a whole, and please inform the facility of the publication. You should acknowledge specific grant funding if the data was required during the active grant period that provided those facility instruments. And finally, for anything above routine assistance, co-authorship for intellectual contributions should be considered. And here we've got the 3 scenarios in the table below around sample prep, acquisition and image analysis. So again, anything routine protocol, routine imaging, tool recommendation and acknowledgement is great. Anything that's customized, bespoke, so custom protocol development, experimental design input or custom analysis or interpretation should an authorship should be discussed. And these are just before we partnered with Global Bioimaging, we had it with the RMS, and these are just 3 examples that the Francis Crick Institute in London put on their facility walls and made it a little bit eye-catching and light-hearted with addition of Bob Marley and Michelle Obama and Lewis Hamilton. And there are other versions of this poster from companies. So we have Argolite here with 2 nice visually attractive posters, and I think it's good to have several versions of these just to reinforce the message. So yeah, I would like to say as you start to build core facilities, you sort of at an advantage here because you can set the culture from day one, which is much easier than to change it when you've got historical users and people used to a certain way of working. And the idea is, yeah, pop it pop it on the wall near the microscope and use it as a discussion starter with the users before any data is collected. The survey that I signposted to before also says that having an institutional policy, 75% of respondents so far are saying that's very helpful. And as I said, much easier to build it from the start into the culture. It would be remiss of me now not to give the proper acknowledgements from where this came from after talking about how acknowledgements are so important. So, and also it might be a useful resource for you. On the RMS website, there's a longer version of the poster that you co-sign together with the user that sets out the publication policy and what you expect. So that's much more of a formal agreement. It might work for you, it might not work for you, but it's there, and you're encouraged to have a look at it. And that was built by Natasha Stevens in conversation with the EM community in the UK and Ireland. And then Jemima, Maddie, Jessica, Dan took that longer document and made it into this poster that you can see here. So that's the QR code for the download from the global bioimaging, and you've got access to the different languages there as well. So that's all. Thank you for listening to me. You can email me directly anytime if you've got questions. I'm Georgina at rms.org.uk. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Georgina, so much for your insightful talk. Do we have any questions for Georgina or Wiame?
Hi, Georgina. Thank you so much. A very superficial question of what would you recommend as how to deal with research a group in particular that just doesn't acknowledge?
I hear you, and I don't think you're alone with that. I think it is common. I think again it's a culture thing. If you're not used to putting too many people on authorship or in the acknowledgements, then it's really tricky to start. So with those people that are difficult, I think, setting out why it's good for you, how you use the data and how that benefits them ultimately is probably the best and probably the only way to go about that, I would say. And if they're listening, they're listening, and if they're not listening, it's hopefully just going to be a thing that changes over time as people get more used to this way of working. But yeah, you're definitely not alone. I've definitely myself been in groups like that where it's very, very difficult to change the PI's mind.
Hello, Professor. Thank you so much for the presentation. I wanted to ask you a question regarding if there is a collaboration between interdisciplinary research groups, especially if it's cross-boundary in between different research institutions and research centers. Have you encountered difficulties in managing research that's cross-continental, it's being carried in different continents, different locations at the same time, and it's producing like a comparative study of sorts? Have you encountered issues when it comes to giving credit to contributions? And I'm trying to highlight the point here about there is always a concern, especially in the global south, when there is the contribution of data, but not receiving of credit back. So and data is very important. So how do you see the exchange and giving credit to actual data collection from local institutions in the global south? Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. This resonates as well. I'm working with something called the Hidden Ref in the UK, which is trying to recognise everyone that's important for research and trying to reduce the emphasis on just straight publications and look at all the other things that people give to research that is so crucial. But that's slightly off topic, but it's in the same vein of giving the people who deserve the credit. But you're talking more about actually when people have given data, have provided some sort of research input into the paper. I guess it's the more people that get involved with projects, the harder it is to track all this. I've not come across anybody specifically saying this around international collaborations, but yeah, again, I guess it's having that communication as early as possible before any of the work is done, setting expectations of people, and having that conversation before there is even a paper, I would say is the best solution here. But yeah, as we go through the hidden ref, we get in lots of different people, like lived experience contributors, that should be properly accredited for their contribution. And I just hope that the direction of travel carries on, and we are getting a more fair academic system eventually coming out here.
Hi, Georgina. Karen here. Thank you so much for this talk, and thank you for sharing about the poster. One of the things I love about this poster and the idea behind it, as well as Hidden Ref, is it gives us tools as researchers to advocate for ourselves. And I think that's a really important thing. And that's in response to sort of just add a response to the previous question. I think it is absolutely critical that we are able to advocate for ourselves. So I echo your encouragement to sort of ideally have these sorts of agreements in place before the collaboration really starts. I hadn't actually realized that RMS had also put together a sort of template MOU essentially, which I think is fantastic. We've implemented one similarly within your institution, and I would encourage those wanting to implement something like this to look, because sometimes institutions actually have authorship guideline policies, and they're often based on international agreements and good ethical research practice, and that's a foundation that you can build an argument on. If needs be, in response to the last question, something like this happens at the point of publication, there is always the option to contact the editors. That feels nuclear, but the global community is increasingly aware of these sorts of inequities and how historically they have been a problem. And most journal editors that I'm aware of would be interested to hear that authorship disputes such as this are in place, and it would probably impact the timeline of publishing the paper until that dispute is resolved.
Really good points, Karen. Thank you.
Thank you, Georgina, so much for this insightful presentation and for sharing the acknowledgement. We have a final question for Georgina, and then we're going to move on with our next speaker.
Thank you very much for the excellent presentation and insight. I just wanted to get your thoughts on image manipulation or alteration. Right now in the area of science, we have seen a lot of retractions due to these image manipulations. So in your experience, do you have an approach to sort of guarantee or try to minimize the those incidents after you deliver the images or provide the researcher with the data?
Yeah, brilliant question. Not really in my area. So if anyone else wants to join in from the audience, please go ahead. I would say I think it's really important to have people trained about what is and isn't acceptable for image manipulation or image processing, because even people with the best intentions you know, might be altering the image in a way that isn't really allowed. I think it's much harder than if it's not a naive mistake to correct that. But you know, the journals have their ways to find these things as well as the other people who are looking at this, because it is undermining science and the public's trust in science. So it's definitely a really important area to address. But yeah, I mean, the whole fair data thing is moving towards that, so people can see exactly what's, you know, how you acquired the image and what happened and so on. But yeah, it's not really my area, but it's a really good question. Thank you.
I'll add maybe something from a bit left field, but you can manipulate your images as much as you want if you report what you did. And I think that's the key, because in a lot of image processing pipelines, you might need to do steps that to a naive person might look a little bit suspicious, but you're trying to do an analytical pipeline that you're trying to generate a mask or something. And it's part of the process. The key is in divulging in what you did and how you did it, so that somebody else can review it and assess whether that was suitable or not. Because you can extend this line of reasoning to any part of the experimental pipeline. Somebody could make up data in any step of the pipeline before it gets to the imaging. And it's the exact same thought. So you have to train researchers to be honest and conscientious and, you know, non-biased or objective. But then you also have to convey to particularly younger researchers that you have to accurately report your methods of what you've done on every step. So your pipeline for your analysis, your sample preparation, et cetera, we base our scientific, globally, the science is based on peer review. So you have to provide information to somebody else to be able to assess whether this was suitable or not. And that's the entire academic principle. So don't be worried about image manipulation. Be worried about underreporting what you did.
Thank you. Can we
note that I also think I'm a big proponent, or I support open access data sets, even if it's a small data set. If you have the raw data available, making it available in the publication is very important, so that even somebody can reproduce the reported pipeline. So even you report, somebody wants to learn how you did it, having the raw data attached to the data set is always very nice.
I can just add before anything that there are papers on that written, like what kind of data you should be reporting, and it's really informative. So we can share this. Yeah. So thank you so much, Georgina. Thank you for your talk. Thank you, Wiame, and.